Hi guys, welcome to my shed. This is where I am building my model railway called Wolverton Centre Sidings. It's located in the county of Buckinghamshire. It's a little town called Wolverton that houses is the home of the longest operating railway works in the world, and was built by the London and Birmingham Company back in about 1830, I think, somewhere around that time. So this is going to be a video of a layout tour and to show you the progress I've been making, and also a few other bits and pieces you might be interested in. I am actually filming this on my phone because I can't be asked to go and get my big camera and set up a tripod, so please excuse the lower quality than you're used to. Right, here we go. So, where should we start? Let's start at the blue bridge end of the layout. So this is a plastic mock-up, which I am in the process of building. It's a placeholder at the moment. It's made out of foam board, and it'll eventually be clad with brick and stone and made to look nice. And the real bridge is built in blue engineering bricks. So that's what that's going to look like when it's finished. The polished styrene that you can see here is just a rough kind of sculpture of what the landform is going to look like. So we've got the four main lines. What you can see going under the four main lines is the underpass where stock accesses the works. It was built so that it didn't impinge on the main line running back when the works was at its heyday. So we've got the four main lines, the underpass, two inclines for the underpass. As you can see, this incline at the front has got some ballast on it. It's not finished yet. And if I can lean over, and you'll see that's the access incline down to the point, which is just under the bridge, back over there. So, I mean, it's based on Wolverton Centre Sidings. It isn't an exact replica in 00 because I would need a shed twice the length of what I've got to do it to scale, so I've had to make compromises. So the compromises I've made are to shorten the incline as much as possible whilst allowing stock to go up and down. And where the Class 8s are parked at the moment, they should be long enough to take 12 Mark III coaches. As you can see, they're not. Then this way, up this end, we've got Stratford Road. So this is a model of Stratford Road Bridge, and the station building that was in situ until about 1986 when it was demolished. I thought I would do a what if layout. What if Wolverton Station actually got its preservation order before BR knocked it down? So that is a scale model of the station. It isn't lit, but it is, as you can see, quite detailed. And that's the roadway. Again, modelling compromises have had to be made, so the bus stops are reversed. So the bus stop this end should be on the other side of the road, but I've done it the other way. Alright then, so that's then where Wolverton Centre Sidings is now. They're using it as I think it's a network rail maintenance storage yard, so that's what I'm kind of in the process of doing here. And where these locos and coaches are parked, they're actually not existing anymore. They've been completely lifted. So I've kind of modelled it as what would happen if Wolverton was still, it's still working, but it's not as big as it was. What would happen if Wolverton hadn't been downsized back during the 80s and was now a centre of excellence for the repair and maintenance of coaches and other rolling stock. So the layout is controlled DCC. I'm using a DigiKeys DR5000 base station, which talks to these tablets on the Z21 app. The layout is split into two zones. So this side that you're seeing at the moment is fed directly off the DR5000. And if I swing you round, the Fiddle Yard side is run off of a Digitrax booster. Well, it was actually a Digitrax DCC system, but I've configured it to run on a booster. So if you look underneath, you can see that's just working as a booster. And you can see the mess of wiring. I'm not the tidiest of wirers, but it works. And to get the track voltage the same on each side, I had to open up the box of the Digitrax controller and play about with the little variable rheostat thingy inside to make it work. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, 17.52 volts on that side and 17.91 volts that side, so half a volt. That's about as close as I can get it. So going back, I use a combination of the tablets, this DT400 Digitrax throttle, which is Loco net, and somewhere along here, yeah, this end, I've got the Z21 Wi-Fi mouse, which is quite good, although they are very heavy on batteries. Right, on to the Fiddle Yard. So the Fiddle Yard goes from 4 to, I remember now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 sidings aside. So I've got the I've got the slow sidings on one side, they're the outside ones, and fast sidings are on the other. And I am eventually going to, if I bring you round again over the bench, pop a couple of points in there so that I can access the fast lines to the slow lines and vice versa, because at the moment I can't. Stock access is off so the third line in, where you can see this point, that is the down slow, so stock can come off of there and into the yard, and then off the up slow on that side. I'm not 100% sure, and I've looked and I've tried to find out, but I'm not 100% sure if they run the trains drag-in stock for the centre sidings run in the opposite direction to what would normally be. So obviously up is towards London, which is that way. But to access the sidings from there, they would either have to do a reversing move, which is quite unlikely given it's a 100-mile-an-hour main line, or they would have to run reverse direction. I do know that further down the track at Milton Keynes Station they have got bi-directional running. I'm not sure about it up here, but anyway, it's by the by. So that's that. As you can see, the stock yard or the Fiddle Yard is quite well filled. Full length Pendolino there. That's 11 cars. Both ends are powered, and I've removed the traction tyres. There is a video on the channel about that. Homemade loads in the engineer's train, so old sleepers, used ballast, etc, etc. I've got a Class 59 over the back, an ARC Class 59 from Dapol, if you can see it. There it is, the yellow and grey one. That's got 20 wagons full of ballast. ticket was Class 90 on the what they call the Virgin Charter. Class 87 on a Locomotive Services Limited charter. Couple of ubiquitous container trains, one going in each direction. A Curacao Class 92, pulling Bachmann double stack car loaders, 2-deck car loaders, and I have never got these to run properly. I bought them years and years ago, and they were put away for storage because I knew one day I'd get a layout that would have them, but I've never been able to get them. They derail everywhere, and there's no rhyme or reason. The back to backs are right. There's plenty of lubrication on the wheels. They're just horrible runners. The cars that are on them are plastic crappy ones I got off eBay. I think they're slightly oversized, but it looks alright. I was going to put Oxford diecast cars on there, but you fill that up with Oxford diecast and it won't pull the train. Even the Class 92, which is a really good Loco for heavy loads. Got my little display cabinet. I've got Kestrel in there, Victor Hugo, that's a Lima model, another Class 59 Lima model, the APT original Hornby APT, and the original Hornby 125 set. And I got my books, all my research materials, and my DVD collection, because I've got a DVD player in the shed. As you can see, there is the DVD player, Frenched into the layout. And I've got an old Samsung flat screen TV, which I picked up cheap from a charity shop, because the very top 10% of the screen is a bit darker than the rest, but it's okay for my use. A few pictures up. There's my favourite one, Pendolino approaching Wolverton, going towards London. Leaning over, quite nice. And then my missus, or my wife I should say, got me some bits and pieces for Christmas. We've got the LMS in Cunard and some tickets, LMS tickets. As you can probably tell, I'm a LMS man. Where else are we? Right, so we've got the Workbench. Believe it or not, that Workbench works quite well. It's just an old, and again, an old dining room table that I picked up cheap from a charity shop. Put some casters on it so I can move it about. The hobby zone storage. I must admit I'm not that impressed with them because you knock them and they move, and I'm just a bit OCD about things like that. I don't like stuff to move about. But they work. They keep things organised. What more can I say? That is my workbench. It's a bit untidier than usual because obviously not obviously to you, but I've just finished ballasting the rest of the scenic side. So the scenic side is now completely ballasted. These yard lights are, I'm trying to think, are they Brava? I think they're Brava, yeah. A German make, and they're available from euroscalemodels.co.uk. And they're not expensive. Again, they're actually platform lights. They're HO, but you'd never know. They're also available from euroscale.co.uk. Got the little street lights, I think they're Brava. They're available from euroscale.co.uk. I can't remember where we got the Flash and Felicia beacons from or who they're made by. I bought those for my grandson, but he kind of lost interest in model railways as he got a bit older, so I nicked them back. Road markings are scale model scenery, fantastic set, really easy to apply. So the bridge and the station, they're completely scratch built, other than the lights and the markings. The road is 800 grit wet and dry. There you go, so there you go. and I've got under layout storage. Got my old toolboxes from when I used to be precision machinist, and then I've got household paints and everything. Oh, my nameplate. I picked that up off eBay. It was a complete rusted mess and I've restored it. I don't think it turned out too bad. I've got a DR5000 base station underneath the layout, and that is controlled by 1, 2, 3 tablets. They were all bought from a charity shop. Didn't cost too much. I also use the Z21 WLAN mouse, and I've also got a Loco net enabled DT400 throttle. That plugs into the Loco net there, and I've got another Loco net here, and I've also got a Loco net hiding behind there. Gives me plenty of options for plugging in if I need to, but generally I tend to use the Z21 and the WLAN throttles mostly. So the layout is split into 2 zones. This side is controlled by the DR5000 base station, and that is set up to stop everything if there's a short or the emergency stop button is pressed. And on this side, the fiddle yard side, that is controlled via a booster which lives underneath. That's a Digitrax booster. I'll just turn the light on and take you under there. So there's the Digitrax booster, and that is actually a fully fledged DCC base station, but you can configure it through CVs just to act as a base station, so that's what I've done. The points on the fiddle yard are controlled via this Mimic panel on the Z21 app. They are controlled using broke my neck on the mat there. Servos in 3D printed mounts, and there's one of those servo controllers. At each end of the layout, they each have 32 channels. They're made by CMME, which I think is Chester Models and Miniature Electronics. They work really well. They get their DC signal directly from the DR5000 to prevent losing control of the points if I get a short on the fiddle yard, which is where I normally get, because I've been an idiot. Sometimes I drive the drain through and I haven't reset the points. We've all done it. This side is short and overload protected by a DCC Concepts. I think what it's called is an IPCB, which I think stands for Intelligent Power Circuit Breaker. Something like that, anyway. That's what those 3 buttons for. This one is controlling that one. I did have the whole fiddle yard linked to 3 separate ones, but I could never get them to work independently of each other, so I took 2 out and sold them. So now this button and this button here are redundant. On this side, the points for the centre sidings are controlled by this DCC Concepts Alpha Central control panel through a DCC sniffer, which is under the layout where it can't be seen, and there are 10 DCC Concepts IP digital point motors and 2 tortoise motors that are linked to a NCE Switch 8 accessory decoder. The layout is powered my master on-off switch. And on this side, I've got this little setup here where I use my old NCE power cab for my testing and programming. And it's set up like so. Usually I've got a laptop on this pull-out drawer. Unfortunately, the laptop has developed a fault and it's going to go away and be fixed. And that's what runs iTrain. Talking about iTrain, I haven't yet got the feedback detection set up because, as you probably know, trying to get older stuff like that at the moment is very difficult, and they're getting more expensive all the time. And as I'm retired, I have a limited slush fund that I can use to spend on the railway. So the power cab fits in there, and then got this little switch panel, just double pole, double throw switches, and I can choose between the DNC power cab for programming, setting up, or I've got a SPROG down there which links to the laptop, so I can switch between the NCE and the SPROG, and they're centre off. And I can switch between DCC and analog control if I want to, so I can use this old Hornby controller to run Locos in if they're not chipped. Well, generally it's a good idea to run everything in before you chip it, just to make sure it works right. And then this last switch on the panel, this side, I can choose between the programming track, which is there, or the rolling road, which is there. And then on this switch, I can switch between the power cab, which is on the program side, and the run side allows this track to be switched into the DR5000 system, and it means once a Loco is programmed, I can, if I want, drive it into the Fiddle yard and do what I need to do without actually physically touching it again. That, I think, is the quick and nasty power control, how I've wired it. The lights are all controlled off of separate power supplies, which are plugged into the circuit that I use to switch on and off. So basically what I've got is this is fed by a plug which plugs into the main power in the shed, and then it feeds out to various plugs where I've got power packs, etc., plugged in for certain things. So the yard lights are all AC, running at 15 volts AC. The Belisha beacons over there, they run on 3 volts DC, so they've got a dedicated power supply. And the flashing crossing lights, they're also off that 3 volt DC supply. So that's that. When I eventually get this portal cabin placed, it's already got the wiring in for, it's got lights and everything in it, I fitted those. That runs off 12 volts. I've got a 12 volt DC power supply for that. And that's about it, lights wise, really. Don't go into lights much myself. They're nice to look at, but you know, generally I run this with the lights on, daytime running, so there we go. Hope that answers your queries. You can see from my last video that every single piece of track has got its own droppers that then link into the DCC bus that gives power, so I don't get voltage drop going round. I don't have snubbers or sniffers or whatever they're called because I've twisted the wires to try and prevent the interference causing issues with the decoders, and obviously although it is a roundy circuit, isn't as such because this side is powered by the brain fart, what's going on? The booster, and this side is powered by the DCC controller, which is the DR5000 DigiKeys, and they're electrically isolated, and I can lift this section up, and that horrible noise you can hear is the warning that it's up, and that's done on the micro switch, which is just there. So turn the power off and that goes away. I put that in because there was a couple of occasions where I've come in all excited, ready to play trains, and forgotten to put the lift up section down, which, as you can imagine, could get quite expensive quite quickly.
So as you can see, the bridge is now completely clad and painted, and the hole, as it's known, has now got its walling in place. I did that with Metcalfe Blue Engineering Bricks card because of the difficulty of getting to it. I thought mucking about with plastic card would be too much of a chore, so I did it out of Metcalfe sheets. A few other bits and pieces have been added. I've added some old Android devices that were no longer needed in the house, so my old Land Rover phone and my wife's old Samsung phone and my wife's old Pixel 7 Pro that she dropped and smashed the screen on, but it's works fine for the Z21 app, so I'm using it. So there we go. We got can actually control up to 13 trains at once on all different controlling systems. Not that I can run 12 at once because I don't have the. I've only got 4 main lines, and I could probably run 2 in the shed. In the yard at times. That's 6. And what else has happened? Oh yeah, I've looking through my box of bits, I found a couple of Akira scale Rory buffers, so I've added those to the layout, and I've also found a couple of those Gauge Master Train Tech buffer stop lights. I've added one there on that line, and I've added another couple over the back there. It's not prototypical, but so what? It's what might have been layout. What else have I done? Oh yeah, we've now got a guy pressure washing one of the Land Rovers, and there's someone's dumped an old bedstead, if you can see that on the rails. So this week has mostly been about doing the shed and the incline, and I've started on making the railings to protect the ground staff from falling to their deaths into the hole. I was going to do a little jokey Doctor Who film scene, because I'm a Doctor Who fan, and I thought I got the Daleks, and I've got someone that looks like Lethbridge Stewart, and I've got a guy who has fallen over. Looks a bit like the Doctor running. That would be the Tom Baker version. And I've not blue tacked him in place yet, so that's why they keep falling over, because I keep taking the bridge in and out to do things. So that's that. What else have I done? Oh, I've updated my stock boxes. Tesco's had a load of those plastic boxes going cheap on the old loyalty card thing. What do they call it? The Tesco... I can't remember what they call it now. It's gone. So I bought a load of plastic see-through boxes to replace all the cardboard boxes my stock was stored in. Now I can see what's in them. Well, to a certain extent anyway. So it's a little bit more organised. And that's about it really. That's all that's happened in the shed. Nothing major. So to cut those upright stanchions, which look like they're made from I-beam from the picture, I've got this Markets Chop It board, which I bought a couple of years ago. Came all the way from Australia. And I've set up my Dremel and a stop so I can put into production those safety barriers, because I've got to go both sides of the hole. As you can see how far they've got to go. I reckon there's about 14 feet of barriers to make just this side of the bridge, not counting the other incline where that little bridge goes across. Another couple of things I've done. Got a scrap car hidden in the bushes that the twackers of Milton Keynes have stolen at some point and set fire to up in the woods above the railway. And further up here at the Stacey Bushes end, or the Blue Bridge end. So the housing estate called Stacey Bushes would be about here. I mean, in real life the track is straight, but so I've another Ford Cortina that's been dumped by the twackers of Milton Keynes. Well, there we go. Like I say, not much else. Been sorting out all my plastic, all my styrene stuff. I bought a load of styrene stuff from the club, from a collection that they were disposing of, and that's been doing me proud. I didn't have enough of the half round, so I ordered these on eBay, not realising they were coming all the way from bloody China, and they took weeks to get here. So I mean, they were going to be the capping stones on the bridge, but I got fed up with waiting, and so I did the capping stones on the bridge out of square. And you might think that wall is a bit low, but in real life it was low. I can remember riding across it as a kid on my bike and being very worried that if I crashed into the wall I'd go over the top onto the railway. You know, the things you worry about when you're a kid. So there we go. Had a bit of a sort out, bit of a tidy up. Using the Z21 app, I have now slaved those two Class 20s together, and that Class 166 Turbo Star, which I'll reach across. And I've modified it to take a KD coupling on the end. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. So basically what I did at first, because the outer ends of these trains don't have couplings, they have them plastic mouldings. I modified the plastic moulding to take a KD, but it was a bit Heath Robinson and didn't really work that well. So I came up with a cunning plan of finding some spare bogies, which I've got on order. So that's the original outer end bogies. You can see it's got no facility for a, come on, focus. It's got no facility for a coupling. So I basically, just as a trial, I swapped the couplings over from each end, and I now have fitted a KD coupling onto that. And when the new couplings come from Bachmann, I'll replace those, those ones with the proper inner one, so I can put the 3-car set back together. And I'll have a KD coupling on each end, which means I can recreate stock being delivered to the centre sidings. Oh, something else I've done as well is I've added some uncoupling magnets to the track over there. They're code 83 magnets, but I had to cut the sleepers out and then pack it up with card to get it to the right height. I don't know what's going on there. Funnily enough, they fit perfectly in the concrete track, which has got a bit of a dip in it, but on the wooden track it won't fit, so I had to cut the sleepers out. Note to self and to anybody who's beginning a build of the railway: put your uncoupling magnets in before you ballast. I managed to get it. I mean, that one was originally set in there, and it was set in there before I fitted this level crossing, so I pulled it out. And the trick with those is they come in packs of 2, and if you score them quite heavily with a scriber in the middle and you snap them, they snap quite straight, so you actually get 2 uncoupling magnets out of 1. You have to be a little bit more precise with your driving, but I think that's a good way of saving money. So rather than just having 2 uncoupling magnets, I can have 4. So the plan is to have uncoupling magnets at the entrance to each of the sidings as well, so that stock can be dragged in with whatever locomotive it is, or be dragged in onto either line, can be uncoupled. Then the Class 8 can come along, couple up on the other end, and drag it up down in the hole under the underpass and back up, and then it would go under the bridge into the Wolverton Works, which is off scene. And then obviously when stock comes back, it would go back the other way, reverse of what it did, and the locos would be waiting for it. So I thought, if I've got my Class 8 coupled to it, I'm going to need a magnet at this end as well. So I'm going to put magnets at each end of the sidings, and I'm going to do the same down here. Only these ones probably only need to have uncoupling magnets at the entrance, because the idea is the stock gets propelled in by the Class 8 and then uncoupled, and then the Class 8 comes and collects it when it's due to go into the works. And there's a one on what I call the reception sidings. I don't know what that one was called in real life. I know these ones over here were called the gravel sidings, and they got lifted probably back in the 1990s. But that one is still in situ. I don't know what that one's called. Those are the plans. I'm waiting for the magnets to come. I ordered them on Amazon because, well, I say I ordered them through Amazon, but they're actually coming from a model shop that sells on Amazon, so I am supporting local model shops in a way. Thing with KD couplings is they're quite expensive. I mean, they're 12 quid for 2 pairs, depending on the length. Actually, the longer ones that I like to use, I think, are 14 quid for 2 pairs, so 4 couplings. But the idea is that I'll only fit the KDs to the outer ends of one end of the locos, and obviously if it's a multiple unit, it'll go on both ends. And I don't tend to use them on coaching stock unless it's coaching stock that I want to deliver to the yard. I think I did have KD. Oh, yeah, it's on my barrier vehicle. That's got a KD coupling both ends as well. So there we go. I did the same thing with this 466. I basically bodged it on the end because there's no facility for a coupling on the outer ends of these things, so I bodged one on. Some plastic card packing, and then a coupling pocket with the little tail cut off and then glued to that to the plastic card, and then mucked about with it till I got it to about the right height, and then went, yep, done. Got to do the other end of this one yet. I've only done one end of this one. I've got to do the same thing the other end. Yeah, Backman, if you're listening, put couplings on the outer ends of your bloody multiple units. Makes life easier for us people. Oh, and whilst you're there, start working to the NEM standards and not put them at whatever height you feel fit. There, that's my little rant. start with, I finally took delivery of the uncoupling magnets. So there we are, we've got 3 in there, and I've put 1 in up there. There's a head shunt that goes up under the bridge. I've got round to chipping 2 of my 5 Voyagers. Big shout out to AY76 on YouTube for the video on how to do that, because the 2 driving cars need their own chips for the lights. It's fairly straightforward once you get your head around it, but I wouldn't have never been able to work it out on my own, so big thanks to those guys for putting their videos up and letting us lesser mortals, do what we need to do. So I got 5 Voyagers, 4 221s, 5 car sets, and 1 4 car 220 set. I've got 2 chips. I've got Doctor Who, who's going round now, and this unnamed cross country 221. I've also started fitting uncoupling magnets to the fiddle yard. The interesting thing about these uncoupling magnets, now bearing in mind I'm using code 75 track, and these are code 83 magnets, because they only come in 2 flavours, code 100 and code 83. So anyway, when I did the wooden sleeper track, I had to cut the sleepers away and then pack out underneath the magnets to bring them up to the right level. With the concrete sleeper track, I can glue them directly onto the track and they're bang on the right height. So I've added a KD coupling to this class 66 Eddie the engine, and there's a between 2 pink marks on the track is where the magnet is. It does, there we go, obviously doing it by hand. Now that was fairly easy to do on the Loco, but on the actual Bachmann container wagon, the NEM pocket was far too low. So what I had to do was modify. Oh, I think I've had a short somewhere, never mind. Well, I've driven that 66 over that point. Right, so I've had to cut the screw hole end off of the KD coupling and then pack out the NEM pocket with a bit of 0.5 plastic card and push it in, screwed in, and it's bang on the right height. So there's an easy way to do it. On this track here, I've added this little bit of paper, and that is to stop. I've got a train that's being pulled by my Coast Class 37 at the moment. It's an engineer's train, and I've put loads in all the wagons. And because my layout is at a 1% incline from that end to that end, and I did that so that I could reduce the incline going down to the hole. So that end is obviously, that end of the track is obviously higher than that end of the track. I found that I'd uncouple the engineer's train and it would just slowly start to creep forward. So I came up with the cunning plan. That is an old concertina intercarriage paper thingy that I took off a second-hand coach that I bought, and I've just black tacked it in place, and that works a treat. It's enough just to stop the train from rolling away once the Loco's off. So there we go, that's that. What else have I done? Oh yes, let me just reset. Push that back. Reset. There we go. Got a few new bits in the yard. So we've got a bit of a road railer being delivered. That's obviously it's a multi-purpose. It's got a bucket, ballast hamper, and I think that's a claw for cutting drac. So the road railer came from Roads and Rails, and the lorry it's on came from Scale Model something or other they're called. Independent shop. Out of interest, I've decided that I'm going to put another crossover in over here. The idea is, at the moment, I can't access the slow lines from the fast lines. So I'm going to put a crossover in there. And I'll be able to do that and give me a little bit more operational playability, which will allow stuff to come off the fast line, go onto the slow lines and go round and then access the centre sidings. Because at the moment, anything on the fast lines is stuck to the fast lines. So I'll do that, give me a bit more operational flexibility. When I set the yard up originally, other than this crossover here, which is done with tortoise motors, all the others are done with those Cobalt IP digital from DCC Concepts. And I decided in my wisdom that I would call this 0.7 as it comes off the main line, and I would call this 0.6. When I should have called them both the same number and just had the reverse, the throw reversed on one of them. And I did the same mistake over here on the three-way point. Let's let Colas go past. So to access this siding is number 2. To access this siding is they're both set straight, and to access this siding is number 3, which is, I believe, this point here. Now, to get off of that three-way point, obviously there's got to be another point here. Well, I called that 4. So what I really should have done was called that and that 3, and had the direction reversed on this one. I mean, I remember to do it on the main line there. That one is, they're both set as number 1. And like I said, this crossover here is number 8. 2 points with the same number. So I'll sort, when I put that new point in under the TV, I'll renumber all my points, which will mean I'll have to make myself another diagram. Now that diagram is obviously not for me. I don't need a diagram because it's my layout. I know where everything is and what it does. But if I have friends over and they want to operate the centre sidings, they can get a bit lost. So I've made that up, just temporary, until I make my proper mimic panel, because I'll be replacing this Cobalt Digital Central, Alpha Central, whatever it's called, with a proper sticky out control panel with a mimic panel on it with LEDs to show the routes that are available. It'll be look quite good when it's done. But, you know, it's one of them things I've got to get around to doing. What else is there? Oh yeah, I've started putting the detail parts on some of my Locos, so that's Chad Varra, my class 57. I've added the snow ploughs and the vacuum pipes to it. That looks quite good. Although I am struggling to find a photograph of the prototype with snow ploughs, so the snow plough might be coming off. I've done the same to all of my 37s bar one, and the reason I haven't done that one is it's I'm trying to think what it is now. It's not a Bachmann one. Anyway, so some have got their snow plows on and the bits and pieces, and some don't have snow plows. I have researched photographs of the prototypes to work out which ones needed snow plows and which ones didn't. This class 57 still got to be done. This class 66 I've put the valance on and the air pipes are in, but I haven't painted the valves yet. I'll do that later on. Class 57's been converted. I was using magnetic couplings, but I've decided to switch it to KDs because, well, why wouldn't you? I just love that. Love the ease of doing it. Now, all my factory sound fitted class 37s, I've got this function on which is called the Uncouple Shuffle, which is brilliant. You just press the button and it automatically goes backwards and forwards and does its stuff. I will have to research how I can do that to all the rest of my sound logos that don't actually have it from the factory. The other thing I've done with most of my stock is I've taken out the crappy little speaker that they come with, and I've put replacement speakers in, which I've bought from Roads and Rails. Some of them have got 20, well, they've all got 20 by 20 by 7 mega bass speakers in, but some Locos have got double speakers. Right, my Harry Needle class 20 over there, that's got a double speaker in, and my class 59 that I sound fitted, that's a Road and Rails chip, so it's got the Inkley by Tap hooter on it, but that's got a, I think it's an EM1 in there, so that is really impressive when that's going round. Did I mention this? To stop stuff running away? I think I did. So still got my little setup there for drilling my uprights, for making my safety barriers. And there's the safety barriers in situ. So that's 2 lengths at the moment. They start life as I-beam. I cut them to length on my chopper. File the ends to make them kind of round. So if you can see there, let's just zoom in. And focus. As you can see, they've been each one of those has been filed by hand, as they are on the prototype. They're round. They've got the ends around. So each one of those uprights has got to be cut to length, filed, drilled twice, glued to the concrete coping stones. Then they've got to have the wire carefully pushed through each hole in turn, and don't forget there's 2 on each one. And you can see it. Let's see if I can get a better angle. I'm sure you can see that, but and then once they've been pushed through carefully, a bit of super glue to hold them in place, and then they have to be primed, painted, weathered, and then stuck into place. Now, from that bridge to the start of the incline is 7 feet. And it needs safety barriers on both sides, so that's 14 feet. Plus I need to put safety barriers on either side of that underpass, and safety barriers on that bridge when I get around to doing it, and safety barriers on this end. You can imagine how long it's going to take me to do that. And little by little I'll be chipping away at it, and then when that's done I will then start thinking about putting the overhead line equipment in. I'm unsure whether I'm actually going to bother with the conductor wires. I mean, I'd like to, but from watching Pete Wortman's layout develop, it looks like an absolute faff. There you go. I'm not a multi-millionaire and I don't have a team of skilled modelers helping me out, so I'd have to do it all myself. Oh, such is life, eh? Win the lottery and pay someone to do it for you. That's never going to happen. Oh, I've also changed a few vehicles up on the bridge. I've brought it forward a little bit, so a bit more modern on the bridge to reflect what's going on down in the yard. And they're not wired in yet, but my shagging couple's going to be under the trees when I put them in there, and she bounces up and down. It's quite funny. A little thing there. I don't know, just my weird sense of humour, I suppose. The major project has been the building and commissioning of this Mimic panel, and I've got to give a big shout out to the guys at DCC Concepts, especially Chris, who went above and beyond to help me achieve what I needed to do. Long story short, I bought the encoder and the LEDs and the Alpha Mimic a couple of years ago with the full intention of building this. They've been in storage. I built this about a week ago, maybe a little bit more, and I also purchased the LED add-on pack with the 6-way splitters from DCC Concepts, expecting them to work as if the LEDs are all wired in parallel. So these would all change together. So that would be opposite to those two, etc. Didn't work. I sent an email off to DCC Concepts complaining that they weren't working as I expected them to. And Chris got back to me, bit of toing and froing to find out exactly what it was I needed the panel to do. And then, as a gesture of goodwill, he sent me the parts free of charge to complete the project. And I got to admit, I wasn't expecting to get them free of charge. So, you know, DCC Concepts, top company, top customer service, and brilliant products. So I built that and decided to put it at this end where the action in the centre sidings takes place, because originally, if you remember and you've watched my channel before, you'll know I had an Alpha Central unit here that controlled the points, and I had both my tablets here, one at each side of this DCC Concepts power thingy. I've decided that I needed it all to be down this end. So that's where we are now. I've also done a little bit of tidying up with the wiring, so the USB leads now actually go through the fascia rather than hanging down. Looks a little bit neater. Right, back to the Mimic panel. How did I make it? Well, I bought a flat pack Mimic panel box, laser cut one off of eBay. Actually, I bought two, a longer one and this shorter one that's on here, and they are made by Flexgenics, I think. Yes, www.flexgenics.com, but I got them through eBay. And they're laser cut, the flat pack, they're dead easy to put together. They're not expensive. The original plan was to have that smaller one over this side for the centre sidings, and I was going to do the longer one to control the points on the fiddle yard. But of course, I'm using a DR5000 multi-protocol base station, and with the Z21 app controlling it. So I have got literally, let's pop that on. Hello. I have this tablet which is dedicated to literally just controlling the mic panel. Sorry, there we go. So all that does is control the points on the fiddle yard, and it's handy because it shows the direction of the double slips. And I sometimes get a bit confused about the double slips and which way they're pointing. So that superseded the Mimic panel, so I'm quite happy with how that works. I'm not going to touch that. That's good to go. Only one thing I've noticed is when it switches on, it cuts the power to the track. It's only that tablet that does it. The other two don't. None of the phones do it. Anyway, back to the Mimic panel. So yeah, it's a flat pack laser cut box. The switches, these are centre off sprung loaded switches, and these are just simple on off switches for the lights and effects. What did I do? What I painted it with? Well, I put it together, a bit of PVA, knocked it up. Dead easy to put together. All the holes are drilled, all ready for you. There are already little threaded inserts in there to take the screw, so you don't have to do any of that. So it's literally been painted with red oxide primer that I had lying about. Surplus to requirements because the vehicle it was going to get used on is now gone. So I thought I'll use the red oxide primer. So long story short, I red oxide primered the lower box. Sprayed the top white with my airbrush. Once that was dry, I used Tamiya 6mm masking tape to mark out the track plan, and then sprayed over that with the red oxide, let it dry, peeled off the masking, and I was left with this rendition of my centre sidings track plan, which hasn't turned out too bad. And then of course I just had to go around drilling all the holes for the LEDs. So I've built that, got it all working. So all the switches are working. So as you can see at the moment, this route is set to access this underneath. This is the part that goes under the layout. So this is the main line. I've omitted two of the tracks to make it easy to understand, but this is the main line going over the top. So at the moment the point is set to the diverging route, if you'd like. So that red light there tells me not to drive anything down the incline because it's set, the point's set against it. But if I switch it the other way, this now tells me not to drive down here because the point isn't set, but I have got access to this. This green, this LED here that changes, I really want it to stay green, so I'm going to have to get in touch with DCC Concepts to find out how I can achieve that. But other than that, it's all in and working, and I'm quite pleased with it. It's not the most professional looking LED Mimic panel, but it does what I want it to do, which is what's important. And if we go to number 12, 10, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, which is this crossover, you can see, oh, wrong way. That point is now set to cross over, and it's now set to the straight roads. here and here. So that works as I wanted to. I had a bit of a disaster. I was putting detailing and KD couplings on a load of stock, and I had the flap open. And normally if the power's on and the flap is open, you'll get this noise. Oh, no you won't, it's switched off again. It tells me it's open. Well, because I was in and out of the shed, it was quite a hot day, I had the door open. And I was in and out, and I was mucking about with the coupling heights to stop them snagging on the points. For some reason they like to snag on these double slips. Anyway, I got it all going. Completely forgot I'd left the flap open. Sent the 67 round. It wasn't going round fast, but the flap was open. And it came round and fell off and hit the floor. It's quite a drop, as you can see. Well, that's not going to work, is it? Let's zoom out. It's quite a bit. So it's about 4 foot high. The 67 hit the floor and exploded. The bogey's all exploded. Luckily, it didn't break any details or the body or the chassis. Literally, what happened was the bogies just came apart, and I had to go searching for all the bits and rebuild it. So that's a lesson I've learnt. So I've gone round, and on every single point of operation of the layout, we now have little warning signs, just to remind me. I mean, you know, that noise should remind me, but sometimes I switch it off if I've got the power on. Now the reason I have got the ability to switch it off is because my programming track, I still use my NCE power cab. I've had this about 25 years, it's still going strong. I just prefer programming stuff with the power cab. I'm used to it, I understand it, blah. So this is actually powered by the main layout power. So the whole layout, including the power cab, is all switched off of that switch there, which goes to a 13 amp plug on the main electrics. So that's why I sometimes I'll stand here and I'll have the door open and the flap up, but I'll have the power on because I want to do some programming. Anyway, long story short, that's what happened. What else have I been doing? I've been adding detail into a lot of my locos. So one end of, I'll do the non-coupling end of my locos have now got details on. So as you can see, the class 57, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can focus. There we go. Bring it in close up. So I've done all that, put all the detail in. I've done all my 37s, my 57s, my 66s, and my 87s. So they've all been detailed one end. I finally got around to recreating double-headed class 86 container train. So at the moment we're on the down fast. We're going to cross over to the up fast. And before I put the crossover in, that was it. It could only use those two lines. And now we're going to cross over from the up fast to the down slow. So we're now on the down slow, where we could, if we wanted to, using that crossover, access the centre sidings. But we're not going to today. So as you can imagine, having that crossover in gives me a little bit more operational flexibility, in that I can now access the fast lines from the slow lines and the slow lines from the fast lines going the other direction. So it doesn't matter where I park anything in the fiddle yard anymore. I've now got access to take it onto any one of the four running lines. So that's an improvement. So with regards to the Mimic panel, I've renumbered all the points in the centre sidings to make it more obvious. So before I did it, that crossover was number 1, but that crossover from the three-way point to the lower track was using 2 addresses, so I've addressed it as the same address, and same as that crossover there, that was using 2 addresses. I've readdressed it so they're on the same address, and they've all been readdressed up to number 8 on the panel. 7 is now, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 8 are now relate to the fiddle, to the centre sidings controls. As you can see, there's labels on there telling you which point is assigned to which address, so 1, 2, 3, etc. 6 is no longer used. 7 controls the crossover under the television or on the bridge, so this new crossover, and that leaves me a spare address on the encoder in case I want to add another set of points somewhere. So that's that. The wife bought me a burnt out coach. I mean, as it's Wolverton Carriage and Wagon Works, or Wolverton Works as it's known, I thought that would be an ideal candidate. So will be living, once I've done the landscaping, that will be living up here on the head shunt, and will stay as a burnt out coach to, well, the backstory is that it was stored up here and then the vandals got to it. Got a new figure up there. He's a prizer figure. He came from Euroscale Models. He's a photographer with a telephoto lens. I've got a few more figures on the layout. This one keeps falling over because it's only held on with black tack. So these are prizer figures. Ground staff or shunting figures. Again, bought from Euroscale Models. There's another one hiding down there behind the buffer stop. You can see him. There we go. And then we got this guy climbing up onto the gronk. And this guy over here waving that multiple unit forward. Also got a new road vehicle in the form of this Veolia bin lorry. This is Oxford diecast one, purchased from euroscalemodels.co.uk. This Class 47 was sent to me by a friend to rebuild. He had two, and he said he wanted, because they've both been damaged over the years, he said make a good one out of the two. So there's what remains of the donor vehicle. So the big news this month is my Cura Scale Class 66. Overall, I'm quite impressed with it. The sound's good. There's only a couple of niggles I've found with it. One of which is the Spirax valves are automatic and they don't stay on long enough after the Loco is switched off. And the hall sensor activated flange squeal only affects the Loco. Obviously it goes off as soon as the Loco straightens up, the flange squeal stops. Fine when that's a light Loco, but when you've got a long train and then negotiating curves and points, all the wheels would squeal, so that's a disappointment. And the other thing is, the orange is far too pale. The box art is correct, but the orange on the actual Loco itself is a little bit too pale. And I do believe that the Cura Scale just copied the paint code that Hatton's used, and the Hatton's one was too pale. So they dropped the ball there a little bit. But other than that, it's a fine Loco, very heavy. Pulls a nice long train. I don't know if I've ever showed you my collection of non-use, or they all run, but I just don't use them. So we've got Kestrel, Falcon, Lima Victor Hugo, Lima Class 59, original Hornby APT, and original Hornby HST in there. I've also got these Hornby KFA container wagons. I'm having problems with that. They all derail for some reason, and I think it's to do with the kinematic couplings. If you've got these and you've experienced the problem and you've managed to get over it, please leave a comment down below. Let me know how you got over it. I would appreciate the help. I decided to start graffitiing up some stock. Let's sort of zoom into that. There we go. So they are all homemade transfers, made on the inkjet printer. I won't go into how I made them because there's people who specialise in that sort of thing on YouTube. So if you want to check them out, just type in inkjet transfers and there's 101 different channels all come up. This is a combination of professionally made transfers. So some are from scale model scenery and some are from, oh, I don't know, I bought them years ago from a show. I do find that putting the transfers on ribbed stock quite difficult. We've got some more transfers on this one. Again, these ones aren't homemade. These are professionally bought ones, scale model scenery and older ones that I've had in stock for a while. I've also been weathering stock. We start up the Z21 and there we go. I've done my first attempt at weathering a Loco, which was quite scary. Just start that going. This is a Bachmann EWS regional special. As you can see, that's all been weathered up nicely. I've also added graffiti and weathered up all the rolling stock. I've never weathered a rolling stock before. That was my first attempt. Didn't come out too badly. Let's just zoom out a little bit. So I kind of made it as, you know, just a dirty and used Loco. And some of these graffiti, well, all the graffiti on the sea lines is scale model scenery. I've got a few more coalfish wagons on order to make this consist a little bit longer. I've also decided to update my auto ballisters. Auto ballisters started off like that, and I made the transfers to make that. So that is all one transfer, printed onto white decal paper. I literally downloaded a picture off the internet, imported that into Inkscape, and then used the dropper to select the colour and to give me the right colour off the photograph. It's okay. Obviously, you don't look professional, but it's all right for me. And this is the first time I've made inkjet transfers, so I've been having a lot of fun. Made some signs for the Network Rail depot. I also downloaded some well, I was watching YouTube. I was watching videos of Wolverton Centre Sidings, and I noticed in one of the videos there was a white van in the yard. So I paused it and I looked up, took a note of the decals that were on the van. Don't know if that's going to focus. Went on the internet, looked up the name of the company, searched for the logo, downloaded the logo, printed it out onto inkjet, clear inkjet paper, and slapped it on the van. So there we go. We have a prototypical white transit in the centre sidings doing maintenance on the plant. Talking of plant, there's a bit more plant in the centre sidings. So this one you've seen before. This was bought from Road and Rails, but I've added the Ready Power logo. This one I was given years ago by a friend. This is a HO. I think it's a Keebury kit. So I had to repair it. It was all broken up and busted up. So I've repaired it and I've added the Ready Power logo and started weathering it up to make it look a little bit dirty. And then this one, this is the HO Keebury kit that I bought from Euroscale Models about 9 months ago. I finally got around to building it. I've anglicised it a little bit. Again, it's got the Ready Power logo as seen at the yard. Ready Power logo there. It's not actually a Mitsubishi, but I decided I was going to put some Mitsubishi logos on it. So, I mean, like the purists in you are going to scream, no, it's not the right logos. But you know what? It's my railway. Rule 1 applies. So there we go. What else is there? Did make a list. Oh, mate, finally got all round to doing the decal for the station. I don't know if that's going to come out. I'm leaning across the layout here. So you've got the station name on the canopy and the double arrow logo on the side. I've been replacing some of these KD magnets, permanent magnets for the KDs. So as you can see, that one's still a half magnet. I was finding that stock wasn't uncoupling reliably with a half magnet. So where there were half magnets, I've replaced with full magnets. There's 3 or 4 around the layout that I've done. And up the big change is up this end, where I've made a real start on doing the vegetation around the layout. So this is the Blue Bridge end of the layout, and we've got some proper nice trees in there. They're all homemade, twisted wire armatures, twigs, combination of the two. This is done with World War Scenics flocks. I find they're very, very good, the World War Scenic flocks. So, be a top-down shot. I don't know if you're going to see that. Of course, there's some more vegetation around there. And this side, as you've probably guessed, I'm kind of doing an autumnal scene. So that's them. A few more trees over the back. I'm trying to get the depth of the density of the trees, but it's proving to be quite difficult. Maybe I should have, well, I have learned from my mistake. I should have put the shorter trees in first and then the larger trees in later, but there you go. So there's a few more trees. All these ones at the front here, they're all new. There's a few other bits and pieces inside the forest. Down this end there's a lot more trees, so I finally got round to doing the trees up at this end. Okay, the elephant in the room, the Minion figures. I'm quite a fan of the Minions movies. So is my grandson. So I decided to get some Minions figures just to place around the layout, just as a laugh. You either like it or you don't. It's up to you. If you don't like it, you don't have to like it. It's my layout. I must admit, YouTube is becoming a bit of a chore. I'm going to probably cut down the amount I upload from every week, probably to every 2 weeks or once a month. Mainly because there's not that much changing now. And I don't want to bore you guys to tears. One of the other things I started doing is I've got an app on my phone. Just open it up. Where is it? It's called Spin the Wheel. When it loads, so you can make your own wheels up. So now, if I want to have a proper operating session, I can choose what stock I'm going to take into the centre sidings. So that's time it's an MCA wagon, and then I'm going to decide which of the roads in the centre sidings that is going to get delivered to. So that's centre sidings 1, which is this road here. And then I can decide which direction it's going to be coming from. In this case, it's coming down from Birmingham. And then lastly, which loco is going to be used to deliver it. And it's chosen the 37 Colus. So there we go. We've got an MHA being dragged by a Colus down from Brum, going into that centre siding. And then once it's been delivered, I then select this one to tell me which road the Gronk is going to collect from there. Right, so if it's going to go to the works, that means it's coming straight off the centre sidings, down the incline, up under the bridge, back up, across this crossover, and down under the bridge, off scene to the works. If it was to go somewhere else, spin that again. Three times a row, right. So Storage Road 3. So I've numbered these roads 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. No, sorry, 1, 2, 3. And they're on my field yard. And then it gets put in there. And once all the stock's been delivered, I've also got one for the scenic trains. I can find it. Stock, storage sidings, scenic trains, contemporary. So again, I choose which train is going to run round from the fiddle yard. And I can choose which direction it's going to go. And I run it round out and back, and then I choose the next train. The idea is eventually that'll all be done automatically by iTrain. So all the stock in the centre sidings, the storage sidings or the fiddle yard, all this is all scenic trains. I got that term from McKinley Model Railway, so they're scenic trains that just run past. They don't stop. They don't get shunted. They literally just go from the fiddle yard, run the layout, back to the fiddle yard, and then the next train. And the idea being that it'll be done on a realistic timetable. So you'll have things like the Pendolinos going backwards and forwards, the Class 350, which is over here, going backwards and forwards. Occasionally you'll have the Pretendolino going, etc., etc. So it kind of gives me the best of both worlds. I can have fun shunting in the centre sidings over this side, and also have my scenic trains running around just to give a little bit of interest.